Hey everyone, I wanted to share something personal that happened with my 401k when I was starting out as a professional and things that you should monitor and continue to monitor throughout your entire career. So for me, I was relatively new in my career when I first started my 401k. I had many years left to contribute. And my risk tolerance was pretty high due to no kids yet and a few other factors. And I found out I was invested within my 401k, my investments had a pretty low risk tolerance. And I wanted to talk with Sean today about what to look for and how to make sure you're actually invested and how to make sure you're invested correctly for your situation.
So the first thing to be aware of is this is somewhat common is most 401k plans have what's called a QDIA or a qualified default investment alternative. And what that means is every 401k has to say, okay, if money's coming in, where are we going to put this? And it's very common to either be in an asset allocation fund, like, oh, you are growth or aggressive growth or balanced, or in 401k is very common to have a target date fund, like, oh, I'm going to retire in 2040 or 2045 or 2050 based on your date of birth. Now, this may not be exactly accurate for your particular financial situation, but it is a reasonable alternative investment if someone did not go in and manually select their investment. So upon further review of Leah's 401k, we uncovered their qualified default investment alternative was a 2% guaranteed fixed account, which obviously was not appropriate for her situation.
And so would individuals figure out if they're trying to look at this or their 401k on their own, how do they figure out if they are in the correct investments, or how do they assess their risk level, and what does that look like for an individual?
Yeah, so most 401k plans, if you log into your 401k, are going to offer some sort of entry level guidance, right? There's going to be a risk tolerance questionnaire, or more like just a funnel questionnaire. What's your date of birth? How long do you expect to work, et cetera, and should be able to uncover a reasonable investment solution for you. Now, that has to be offered. And while I have my opinion, I feel like in your particular case, they didn't want that. They wanted most people to be in that 2% guaranteed fund, which allowed them to probably do other things with the money, right, while it's sitting on their balance sheet, not taking a lot of risk. So just, get online and explore what options your 401k provider has for you under, typically it's under like a resource tab or something of that nature to uncover a risk tolerance or a good investment solution for you.
When it comes to taxes and fees for investments, is this something individuals should be looking at within their 401k, or is that something to really worry about for the individuals as well?
Yeah, so obviously taxes aren't an issue unless you draw out of your 401k. So as long as you're not pulling money out, we can table the tax questions. But as far as expenses and fees, right, a lot of people think, oh, the 401k is free, right? Because there's not a line item to pay a financial advisor. And that's certainly not the case. Typically there is a fee for the provider of the 401k. And then also you have the investment fees, or the expense ratios is what they're called. In each investment, right, they're not a non-for-profit organization, right? They are taking a profit to manage these dollars. There's an expense ratio inside of each investment that you have in your 401k. So taking the time to understand what are those expense ratios and what is the best investment for me can make a difference over the long term.
And then just across the board, when someone starts with a company or a new company, what are questions they should be asking about their retirement plans?
Yeah. So, first you want to ask, am I getting a match? Is there a profit sharing? And if the answers are yes to that, the follow-up question should be, what's the vesting schedule of that, right? So if your employer gives you a match, typically there's a vesting schedule that says you have to be here for at least 5 years or 3 years in order to get that match if you were to leave the company, right? And if you don't hit that vesting schedule and you leave, then the company retains those dollars and you do not get that match. So matching, profit sharing, vesting schedule for sure. Can you contribute right away? a lot of 401ks, because there's a lot of turnover in the workforce these days, that they'll say, well, you got to be here for 90 days or 180 days before you can start to contribute. And if that's the case, then you want to set a reminder for yourself to go in there and make sure your contributions are being made, and then make sure they are, being put into an investment. The other thing that happened in your particular case is there was a plan change. Okay. And this is not super common, but it does happen, right? Whether it's a new provider or a new expense or a new fee schedule on that, or a merger or an acquisition with a business, they can create a new plan. Now, in Leah's case, what happened was they created a new plan, moved all the assets from the existing plan to the new one. Now, mind you, it was with the same company. Okay, but when the plan change happened, that qualified default investment alternative started all over again. So without Leah and I's knowledge, they flipped her back into that 2% guaranteed fund. Big thing to keep in mind as you progress with this company over time is if there's any sort of plan change information being sent to you, you have to pay attention to that and make sure that you're going back in after the plan change and making sure your money's still invested the way you want it to be. This is that idea of it's your money and you have to be prudent and managing your money, right? Even if you hire a financial advisor like myself, right? You still have to take the time to make sure that what's happening with your money is what you want to happen. It's never is this a set it and forget it situation. You don't have to look at it every day or every week or every month, but at least peek in every quarter to every 6 months. And, this individual probably would have caught that a long time ago. So don't set it and forget it. Keep your eyes on it.